My mother chose my stepbrother over me my whole life. Now he lost his home and wants to live in the property I inherited. But I slammed the door and my family says, I'm heartless. I'm 28 years old. I work as a freelance graphic designer. And the truth is, I need to get this off my chest because I haven't been sleeping well for weeks, since my stepbrother Cameron showed up out of nowhere asking for help. The thing is, this whole situation has made me relive a bunch of stuff from my childhood that I thought I'd already gotten over, but turns out I haven't. And now my entire family is bombarding me, telling me I'm selfish and cruel. And honestly, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or if I really am as bad a person as everyone says I am. I guess I should start at the beginning, when my mom, Deborah, married Matthew. I was like 6 years old, maybe 7. I'm not really sure. But I do remember perfectly the day Cameron moved into our house. He was like 12 or 13 years old. He was Matthew's son from his first marriage, and from day one my mom treated him like he was a gift from heaven. I'm not exaggerating when I say everything changed overnight. Like, someone had flipped a switch and suddenly, I didn't matter anymore. My mom would spend hours asking Cameron about his day, helping him with homework, taking him to his soccer practices, and I would just sit there in the living room waiting for someone to remember I existed too. The first few months, I tried to be part of their new perfect family. You know, I thought it was just a matter of time for things to settle. But Cameron made my life impossible. He would hide my things, push me when the adults weren't looking, tell me I was ugly and stupid. And when I tried to tell my mom something, she always found an excuse to defend him. Cameron is going through a difficult time with the divorce. Cameron is adjusting to the new house. Cameron needs more attention right now. It was like I had no right to complain about anything, because everything revolved around Cameron's needs and keeping him happy. What hurt me the most, and this still hurts when I think about it, was when my mom would compare me to my dad. My dad had left when I was like 4 years old. I don't remember much about him except that there were a lot of fights before he left, and my mom used that as a weapon every time I did something she didn't like. You're just like your father. She would tell me when I got bad grades, or when I complained about something. Selfish like your father. Bitter like your father. And I was a kid. You know what I mean? I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and my own mother was basically telling me I was a copy of the person she hated most in the world. Things got worse when I started middle school. Cameron was already in high school, and he was like the popular kid. He had tons of friends, played on the soccer team, and my mom would go to all his games with Matthew screaming like crazy from the stands. I was in theater. I liked acting and had gotten small roles in some school plays, but my mom never went to a single performance. Not one. She always had some excuse. That Cameron had an important game the same day, that she was too tired from work, that school plays were too long and boring. One time, I begged her, literally begged her on my knees to go see the play where I had the lead role, and she promised me she would go. But on the day of the performance, she didn't show up because Cameron had had an emergency, which turned out to be that he had fought with his girlfriend and needed my mom to console him. I remember after that play, I sat in the dressing rooms while all my classmates left with their families to celebrate, and I waited there thinking that maybe my mom would arrive late but would eventually show up, and she never came. My theater teacher found me crying like an hour later and took me to get ice cream. And I think that was the first time I really understood that my mom had she had consciously chosen Cameron over me, and that was never going to change. Things got to a point where I basically felt invisible. In my own home. Cameron. I had the biggest room, the best computer, new clothes every season, and I had the basics, at the bare minimum to survive. It's not that we were poor, exactly. Matthew had a good job in construction, and my mom worked as a secretary at a dental office, but all the extra money went to Cameron. When he wanted something, my mom would move heaven and earth to get it for him. When I asked for something, it was always, "We don't have money for that right now," or, "That's not necessary," or, "Don't be so materialistic." The only place where I felt loved was at my paternal grandparents' house. They lived like 20 minutes from our house, and I would visit them whenever I could, especially on weekends. My grandmother made the best cookies in the world, and my grandfather taught me to play chess. And at their house, I could be myself without anyone comparing me to Cameron or telling me I wasn't enough. They would ask me about school, about my friends, about the plays, and really listen to my answers. They came to all my performances, screamed louder than anyone when I came out on stage, and afterwards they would take me out to dinner to celebrate. When I turned 16, The situation at home was unbearable. Cameron had started bringing his friends over to the house, and they would bother me too, say gross things to me, laugh at me, and when I complained, my mom would tell me I was exaggerating, that they were just jokes, that I should learn to take things with humor. Once, one of Cameron's friends grabbed me by the waist in a super inappropriate way, and when I yelled at him, my mom punished me for making a scene and embarrassing Cameron in front of his friends. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I called my grandparents crying that night and told them everything, absolutely everything that had been happening for years. And the next week, they showed up at my house and had a serious conversation with my mom. I don't know exactly what they told her because they asked me to wait in the car. But when they came out, they told me I was moving in with them, that they had already arranged everything with my mom, and that I was going to be okay. My mom didn't even come out to say goodbye when I packed my things. Only Matthew came out and told me he understood I needed space but that I would always be welcome at home. Which was kind of ironic, considering I had never felt welcome there in the first place. Living with my grandparents was like breathing for the first time in years. I had my own room, nobody bothered me, nobody compared me to anyone, and my grandparents supported me in everything. When it came time to apply to universities, my grandparents told me not to worry about money, that they would pay for my entire education, and they kept their promise. I studied graphic design at a decent university like 2 hours from the house, and those were the best years of my life. My mom would call me from time to time, but our conversations were super superficial. I've talked about anything real. And honestly, I didn't make much effort to maintain the relationship either. I graduated like 5 years ago with honors. I had worked super hard and was proud of myself, and obviously I invited my mom, Matthew, and Cameron to my graduation. I sent the invitations months in advance, reminded them of the date several times, but none of the three showed up. My mom called me the day before saying Cameron had a tournament of I don't know what that same weekend, and they couldn't miss it, and that surely I understood that there would be other graduations. As if I was going to graduate from college more than once? My grandparents were there screaming my name when I received my diploma, and that was enough. Or at least that's what I told myself. The next few years I worked as a freelancer from my grandparents' house, designing logos and websites for small businesses, and the truth is I was doing pretty well. I had built a good portfolio of clients and was earning enough to live comfortably. But then, like 2 years ago, my grandmother died of a heart attack, completely suddenly, and 6 months later my grandfather died too. I think from sadness more than anything. I don't know. The doctors said it was a stroke, but I know he just didn't want to keep living without her. Their death was devastating. I'm not going to lie. I cried for months, and there are still days where I cry when I find something that reminds me of them. But in their will, they left me everything. The house, their savings, everything. My mom got really angry when she found out, said they were her in-laws and that they should have left her something too. But turns out my grandparents had been pretty clear in their will about why everything was for me. They basically said I was the only one who had been there for them and that they trusted I would take good care of their legacy. Like 2 years passed without much contact with my mom or Cameron. I kept working from home, had done some minor renovations to my grandparents' house to make it more mine, and was like in a good place mentally. And then, like 2 months ago, I got a message from Cameron on Facebook. We hadn't talked in years, literally years. And suddenly he sends me this long message explaining that he'd been evicted from his apartment, that he has a daughter who's like 4 or 5 years old named Harper, that he needs a place to stay temporarily while he gets a job, and asking if he could move in with me. I stared at the message for like an hour, not knowing what to answer. On one hand, there's this little voice in my head saying, he's family, that he has a young daughter, that maybe I've been holding a grudge too long. But on the other hand, I remember absolutely everything he put me through. All the years of bullying, of being invisible, of my mom choosing him over me again and again. And I think, why should I help him now? Why should I open my house? The house my grandparents left to. Me. To the person who made my childhood miserable? I replied, no. That I was sorry, but I didn't feel comfortable with that situation. I tried to be polite, told him I hoped he found something soon and wished him the best, but my answer was no. He got angry, sent me like 5 messages in a row calling me selfish, telling me I have this huge house just for myself, that his daughter needs a safe place to live, that I'm resentful and need to leave the past in the past. I told him the past would be in the past if he had ever apologized for something, anything, but that he never had. And that ended our conversation. But of course, Cameron ran to my mom to tell her his version of the story, and then the bombardment started. Cousins I hadn't seen in years started sending me messages saying I should help Cameron, that he's family, that Harper is innocent in all this. Aunts I barely know wrote me saying I'm being cruel, that how can I have so much space and not share it with someone who needs it. My mom called me screaming that I'm a horrible person, that I've always been selfish just like my father, that Cameron has changed and I refuse to give him a chance. I tried to explain to her that it's not my responsibility to solve Cameron's problems, that he's a 34-year-old adult who should be able to take care of himself and his daughter without depending on the stepsister he treated like garbage for years. My mom told me that was a long time ago, that kids do silly things, that I need to grow up and forgive. Forgive. As if forgiving was something you simply decide to do one day and that's it, as if it erased all the damage they did to me. Things got worse when my mom showed up at my house without warning. She knocked on the door like 9 in the morning on a Saturday, and when I opened it, there she was, with her arms crossed and that face she made when she was about to give me a lecture. She came in without me inviting her, sat on the living room couch like it was her, a house, and started telling me we needed to talk seriously. She told me Cameron and Harper had nowhere to go, that he'd been sleeping in a friend's car with the girl, that I had 3 empty bedrooms, and it was ridiculous that I refused to help. I told her my reasons were valid, that I didn't owe Cameron anything after everything that happened, and she told me I was being dramatic, that I was exaggerating things, that Cameron had never done anything so terrible to me. That's when I exploded. I yelled at her everything. Absolutely everything I had kept in for years. I told her she had chosen him over me from the day she married Matthew, that she never went to any of my plays, that she didn't go to my graduation, that she compared me to my dad every time she wanted to hurt me, that she allowed Cameron and his friends to treat me horribly without consequences. My mom sat there with a red face telling me I remembered things wrong, that she had always loved me equally, that it was impossible, that she had been as bad a mother as I was painting her. I asked her to leave my house. She refused at first, said we weren't going to separate until I came to my senses, but I opened the door and told her if she didn't leave, I was going to call the police. She eventually left, but before leaving, she told me she was disappointed in me, that she never thought her daughter would be capable of leaving a little girl homeless, and that she hoped I could live with myself knowing what I was doing. 2 days later, Cameron showed up at my door. I don't know how he got my exact address. I guess my mom gave it to him. But there he was, ringing the doorbell insistently until I opened. He was angry. I could see the veins in his neck, like when he was a teenager and was about to explode. He told me we needed to talk adult to adult, that I was being unreasonable, that he had made mistakes as a kid but now he was different, that he had a daughter who depended on him. I told him the same thing I had told my mom, that it wasn't my problem, that he should have thought about his daughter before getting evicted, that there were social services and shelters for situations like his. He got furious. He started yelling at me that I'd always been a bitter bitch, that I held grudges over stupid things, that my grandparents had spoiled me too much and now I thought I was better than everyone. And he tried to push the door to come in, but I held it and told him to leave or I'd call the police. He stood there for like 30 more seconds, yelling things, and then he left. But as he walked to his car, he yelled at me that this wasn't over, that I was going to regret treating him like this. That night I couldn't sleep well. I was scared he would come back or do something. And it turns out I was right to be worried, because the next morning I went out and my house was covered in egg. All the front windows, the door, part of the entrance, everything covered in egg that had already dried and was super hard to clean. I have no proof it was Cameron, but I mean, who else would it be? I called the police, filed a report, and they said they couldn't do much without evidence, but that it was documented in case something else happened. I installed security cameras that same day, 2 outside and 1 at the front door, because honestly I was terrified of what else could happen. My mom called again like a week later. I hadn't talked to her since I kicked her out of my house, and I thought maybe she was calling to apologize or something. But no, she was calling to minimize the egg thing. She told me it was probably neighborhood kids, that there was no way to know if it was Cameron, that I was being paranoid. I told her I didn't want to talk to her for a while, that I needed space. And she got angry and told me I was cutting off my family over nonsense. I told her my grandparents had been my family, that she had stopped being it a long time ago. And I hung up. I haven't talked to my mom since, and then I blocked Cameron on all social media, and I blocked the numbers of all the family members who were sending me hate messages. Some friends have told me, maybe I'm being too harsh, that maybe I should give Cameron a chance for Harper's sake, that she's just an innocent girl who's not at fault for anything. And yes, I know. Harper's not at fault. But it's not my responsibility either. I didn't decide to have a child without a backup plan. I didn't decide to get evicted. And I definitely didn't decide to treat my stepsister like garbage throughout her entire childhood. The truth is, I feel guilty sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I think about Harper sleeping in a car or in some shelter, and I feel like it's my fault, like I could do something to help her. But then I remember all the times I needed help. All the times my mom chose Cameron over me. All the performances nobody went to. And I think I'm breaking a cycle. You know what I mean? I'm saying no, that my emotional well-being, to matters that I don't have to set myself on fire to keep warm people who never cared about me. My grandparents left me this house because they wanted me to have a safe place, a place where I could build my life without having to depend on anyone. They left it to me, not to Cameron, not to my mom, to me. And I think I'd be disrespecting them if I let the same people who made me feel invisible for years come now to invade the only space that's truly mine. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't know if in a few years I'm going to regret this decision. But for now, it's what I feel I need to do to protect myself. Last week, I was cleaning the attic of the house and found a box full of programs from all the plays I participated in when I was a kid. My grandparents had saved them all, each one with handwritten notes saying how proud they were of me. I cried for like an hour reading them, thinking about how they were always there, how they never hesitated to show me they loved me. And that's what keeps me firm in my decision, knowing that the people who really loved me would never have put me in this position, would never have made me choose between my peace of mind and proving something to people who never valued my existence. So here I am, in my house, working on my projects, living my life, and trying not to feel guilty for setting boundaries. I don't know what's going to happen with Cameron or Harper. I honestly hope they find help somewhere, but that place isn't going to be here. And if that makes me selfish, according to my mom and the rest of the family, then I guess I'm going to have to live being selfish. Because being alone and at peace is better than being surrounded by people who only look for you when they need something from you.